in this import folder, I have a spreadsheet as an example here where I have each one of these rows as a document. You can see the file name, and then I can see a bunch of columns here. Each one of these is a field of data that I want to fill into my data card. Using that Excel command here, I can easily map those rows and columns of data to the data card. So here, I asked the Excel command to scan that spreadsheet. It identified each one of the columns here. I've mapped that to a field in the data card. I could pick different fields from the list if I wanted, as needed. We want that to be the project name field. So where's project name here? We'll just kind of scroll down until we find it. Project name, there we go. And then fill that in, and I say import. And that's going to scan the spreadsheet, pull the data from the spreadsheet, and make it part of the data card for each one of those documents. Now I hit close and save that. And now if I look at these data cards, you'll notice the information here about like client name and building name and all this project information automatically been populated from that spreadsheet. That's kind of a one-time import. It's not, we don't link the data to the spreadsheet. You can delete the spreadsheet and it can go away now. You don't need to use it anymore. All the data that was on the spreadsheets now become part of the data for each one of those documents on the data card. So that's scanning and syncing and importing. A couple of other commands that can be helpful to when you bring in documents is something called the unresolved relationships or broken references. This can help you to identify files when you brought them in that have a broken reference. So, I can see this drawing here has a little red slash by it. If I turn on my document dashboard, this shows me that it's missing a file as part of its X references from AutoCAD. So, if you bring in a large set of documents through a scan and sync process or even through a drag and drop, it might be helpful to run this and analyze so you know what drawings are missing right away. Let's see here. There's also the duplicate check. Right here, search for duplicates. I don't have any duplicates. Search for duplicates. I do have a couple of duplicates in my system here now. Actually, after doing that import, I do have a couple. So you can see how I have two different versions of that drawing, of each one of these drawings. You can control whether or not you allow duplicates or not allow duplicates in the system. Right here under options, you can determine whether or not you can enforce duplicates. Right now, I have it set to not enforce. A lot of times you might set it to not enforce when you're importing a set of documents, so you'll allow the duplicates to exist, but then after that, when you bring them in as a batch, that is, but then turn it back on to enforce it moving forward. That way, no more duplicates can be created, and you can go ahead and clean up this list of duplicates. So depending on how you want your system to work or be configured, sometimes during an import process, you might turn that check off and then turn it back on moving forward. It just depends on where you're at in the process. Okay. All right, we talked about libraries and users and groups. Let's talk a little bit more about full text search. And then I want to talk a little bit about the audit trail, and we'll see what kind of questions we have. So let's see here, the full text search. That's something that can be turned on using a couple of different settings. Going back to our options here, if you want to turn on full text search, you check the box that says enable full text search. Earlier, you saw me check the box where I enabled it for a specific library. This is where you enable it for the entire system. So if this is not checked, then it doesn't matter what you do for the library. The library is specific once this has been enabled. This is where you turn it on. And then the other thing that you need to do is you need to open up the web client. And this gets into a little bit of a web server configuration type thing that you need to do. That you want to go log in to the web server. You want to log into the Adept web client on the web server, and you want to go and specify a folder for full text options. This is where all the full text data is stored. In my case, I have it on a network share. It doesn't have to be a network share. If you're setting this up I would probably recommend you possibly, review the help on this, in the admin guide, or if you need to, contact our help desk and they can walk you through this real easily. But this is where all the full text search data is stored. It doesn't have to be a share. It's just a folder we recommend on the web server, maybe in like the root of the D drive or something like that, because it can get pretty large with all that indexed OCR data that you're going to be storing to search. But once you've enabled those two settings, there's one other thing you might need to do, and that is to generate full text data, or to extract it from the documents themselves. All documents that are in the system already, before you turn on full text search, are not full text search indexed. To index them, you need to issue, to index the existing files or documents, you might need to issue a couple of commands. For example, let's say these documents here, they are not full text searchable yet. What I can do is I can go to the tools and I can say extract text. And that will then extract text for those specific documents. If you want to see what text has been extracted, you can look at the extracted command here, and you can see here on this one, I don't have that set up for that folder or library, so that data wasn't extracted. Here, you can see where data was extracted, and I can see what data, what text was extracted from this drawing, as opposed to this other drawing was not in a full text search library. So, if you're working on full text search and having any trouble with that, that can be one of those things where you might need to contact the help desk. If you're not taking advantage of it, I highly recommend it because you can get a lot of power from your searching capability with that. Okay, last thing I wanted to talk about was the audit trail. As an administrator, if you want to do some analysis of how the system's being used or have a need to generate or use some of your audit trail data, that's all the data that we track and manage on the audit trail tab here. I can see, when, maybe go to a better example here. Here, on this drawing, I can see all kinds of information or events that have happened to this document in its life cycle. I can see when the document was viewed. I can see when it was checked out or checked in, put into a work in progress state, all the events that have happened. If I want to search through those events and generate a report, that's where on the admin tab, I can use the audit trail search command. Here, I can start to go, all right, let's see, I want to look at all the view commands, and I'd like to know when a document, who's viewed what documents in the past year. So I'm going to go ahead and specify the view document. I'm going to roll back the clock here to the 1st of January, and I'm going to say, okay. And I can now see that, this is a list of the documents. Here's the file names. Here's the users that viewed them, and the date and time they were viewed in my system. You'll notice that a lot has happened in April. I constantly roll back my system to previous versions and reset it, so I don't have a lot of history beyond, where I'm currently at. So this is how you can analyze how, documents are being used through the audit trail events or processes. This information can also be pushed to a report. Inside of Adept, you can create report templates. As an example here, you'll see here I have a number of general reports. Then I also have a couple of audit trail reports. And an audit trail report can contain whatever audit information you might want. For example, here in my audit trail reports, I contain things like the file name, the command it was, the date and time, the Adept version, and the major and minor version if you want. So that would be a way of just outputting a set of data to a report that I might need to present to an auditor or to save as a PDF to document how certain processes or the systems being used. So that's the audit trail. You can very easily create audit trail report templates. When you do an add command, this is where you choose, I'm creating a file table report, or I'm creating an audit trail report. And that will then, when you pick this option, that'll make all that audit trail data available to you as opposed to file data card data like you get when you pick the file table option.